The Sphinx in foreign lands. Though born in the sands of Egypt, the legend of the Sphinx traveled far beyond the Nile. Merchants, sailors, and storytellers carried its image across seas and mountains, and in foreign lands it began to take new shapes. While Egyptians saw the Sphinx as a guardian of wisdom and protection, other cultures reimagined it with their own colors, weaving it into their myths and legends. In Greece, the Sphinx became a figure of shadow and challenge. Unlike the calm, watchful guardian of Giza, the Greek Sphinx was imagined as a creature of danger, a lion's body, a woman's face, and great wings that stretched like those of an eagle. She perched upon a rocky hill near Thebes, waiting for travelers who dared to pass. With a voice as smooth as silk, she would ask her famous riddle: what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening? Failed to answer were said to be devoured, their bones left scattered at the foot of her throne of stone. Only when Oedipus, a traveler of destiny, solved the riddle-answering man did the Greek Sphinx meet her end. For the Greeks, she was a symbol of fate, a reminder that wisdom was a weapon more powerful than strength. In later times, as Rome inherited Greek stories, the Sphinx became a symbol of mystery itself. Artists carved her into mosaics and temples, often blending Egyptian and Greek imagery: wings for majesty, claws for power, and a serene face for wisdom. To the Romans, she was not just a beast of riddles, but an emblem of the unknowable, the eternal questions that linger in the human heart. Even beyond Europe, echoes of the Sphinx appeared. In Asia, stories of lion-bodied guardians emerged in temples and palaces, though shaped by different traditions. Some scholars believe these distant figures were inspired by the tales of the Egyptian Sphinx, carried along trade routes like treasures of the imagination. Yet, no matter how far the legend traveled, the essence of the Sphinx remained the same. A being that stood at the threshold between worlds, testing mortals, protecting mysteries, and embodying both fear and wisdom. Whether as Egypt's silent watcher or Greece's winged riddler, the Sphinx reminded all who heard of it that true strength is not only in the body, but in the mind and spirit. For the Egyptians, hearing how other lands reimagined their guardian only deepened its mystery. How could one figure take so many forms and still feel eternal? Perhaps that is the power of the Sphinx. It belongs not only to Egypt, but to the world, reshaped in every culture yet never forgotten. And so, as the night deepens and dreams draw near, imagine the Sphinx spreading its legend across oceans and continents. In every version, in every tongue, it asks us the same: will you seek wisdom or turn away from mystery? The eternal mystery for all the stories told of the great Sphinx, its origins, its riddles, its guardianship. One truth remains: it is still a mystery. Thousands of years have passed since its face first looked upon the desert, yet no one can say with certainty who built it, why it was carved, or what secrets lie hidden within its stone. Perhaps that is why it continues to enchant us. The Sphinx does not give answers. It offers questions, inviting each generation to wonder anew. The Egyptians believed that silence was a form of wisdom. In temples and tombs, they carved prayers not only for knowledge, but for patience, for the strength to wait upon truth. The Sphinx embodies this silence perfectly. It sits unmoving, unchanging, letting the winds of history pass around it. Pharaohs, priests, conquerors, and scholars have come and gone, but the Sphinx endures, guarding its secrets with a calm that humbles all who approach. Some believe the Sphinx is a message written in stone, a reminder that not all things are meant to be solved. Its riddle is not simply about man, but about life itself, the fleeting beauty of childhood, the strength of maturity, the dignity of old age. Others see it as a bridge between worlds, standing where earth meets sky, where mortals reach for the divine. Perhaps it is all of these things at once, or perhaps it is something even greater. Beyond what words can hold, the mystery of the Sphinx has inspired endless seekers. Explorers dig at its base, hoping to find hidden chambers. Poets write of its silence, artists paint its shadow beneath the stars. Travelers from every corner of the earth journey to its side, sitting in its presence, feeling the weight of ages pressed gently upon their hearts. Each leaves with a story, yet none can claim the whole truth. And maybe that is the lesson. The Sphinx does not exist to give us certainty, but to remind us of wonder. Its power lies not in the answers it keeps, but in the questions it awakens. To sit before it is to remember that the world is vast, that time is endless, and that some mysteries are meant not to be solved, cherished. As the desert night falls and stars shimmer above the pyramids, the Sphinx remains as it has always been, silent, eternal, watchful. It does not speak, yet in its silence it says everything: that life is fleeting, that wisdom is timeless, and that mystery is the heartbeat of existence. And so, as you drift into sleep, imagine yourself sitting at its paws, the sands cool beneath, you, the night sky endless overhead. Let the Sphinx's silence guide you into dreams, where questions are more precious than answers, and where mystery itself becomes the most comforting lullaby of all. The silent watcher for thousands of years. The great Sphinx has kept its place in the desert, gazing eastward, unmoving, unblinking. It does not speak, yet its silence is more powerful than words. To the people of Egypt, the Sphinx was not simply stone, it was a silent watcher, guarding both the living and the dead. The Sphinx stood as protector of the pyramids, where pharaohs lay in their eternal sleep. Travelers who approached felt its gaze upon them, heavy yet calm, as if the guardian could see into their hearts. Some said its silence judged the souls of men, weighing their honor without scales or words. Those who came in peace felt comfort, while those with dark intentions felt unease under its eternal stare. Stories tell of thieves who dared to approach the pyramids with greed. They crept beneath moonlight, seeking treasures buried with the kings. Yet the closer they came to the Sphinx, the heavier their steps became, as though the desert itself pressed against them. Some turned back in fear, whispering that the guardian's eyes had followed them. Others vanished, their fates swallowed by the sands, as if the Sphinx itself had erased them from the world. But the Sphinx was not only feared, it was loved. To the people, its presence meant protection. Farmers prayed before it for safety from raiders. Caravans crossing the desert bowed to it, believing its silent blessing would keep them safe. Mothers told their children that the Sphinx watched over Egypt as gently as a father watching over his family. Priests often spoke of the Sphinx as the embodiment of Mat, the goddess of truth and order. Just as Mat kept the universe balanced, the Sphinx kept Egypt safe, holding chaos at bay. Its silence was not emptiness, but balance. A stillness that reminded all who looked upon it of the eternal harmony between life and death, man and God, earth and sky. In time, legends grew that the Sphinx would awaken if Egypt ever faced its darkest hour. Some believed its stone lips would part to speak, revealing truths lost to time. Others imagined its great body rising from the sand, a lion of stone roaring to protect the land. Though it never moved, its silence carried the weight of promise, that Egypt would never stand alone. And so, the Sphinx remained the eternal watcher. Empires rose and fell, armies marched and vanished, the desert shifted endlessly, yet the guardian remained. Its stillness was a comfort, a reminder that while the world changes, some forces endure forever. Tonight, as you close your eyes, picture the Sphinx beneath the stars, watching in silence as it has for thousands of years. Feel the calm of its gaze, the protection of its presence, and the stillness of its eternal watch. For even in dreams, the Sphinx is there, the silent guardian of the sands, the erosion of time. The great Sphinx has watched the desert for thousands of years, but even stone is not immune to time. Wind, sand, and rain have left their mark upon its face, carving lines deeper than any sculptor's hand. The nose and beard that once gave it greater majesty have long since crumbled away. Yet in its weathered silence, the Sphinx has become something more than perfection. It has become a living witness to the passage of ages. The desert is both gentle and cruel. By day, the sun blazes down, scorching the stone. Winds sweep across the plateau, carrying fine grains of sand that sting like needles. Over centuries, these grains worked patiently, wearing down the Sphinx's surface, softening its once sharp features into the face we know today. To stand before it now is to see not only the hand of the sculptor, but also the hand of time. Legends grew around its eroded form. Some said the missing nose was struck off by invaders, jealous of its power. Others whispered that lightning split it apart in a storm sent by the gods. Still more claimed the Sphinx itself chose to shed parts of its body, reminding humankind that nothing lasts unchanged. Whether by man, storm, or desert, the truth is hidden, like so many secrets the guardian keeps. And yet, its damage never lessened its power. For the Egyptians, the scars of the Sphinx were not flaws, but signs of endurance. Just as people age and gather lines upon their faces, the Sphinx wore the weight of time with dignity. Its silence became wiser, its presence deeper. To look upon it was to feel both the fragility and the strength of existence. Travelers wrote of moments when the Sphinx seemed almost alive. At dawn, the shadows of its worn features changed with the light, giving it new expressions. Sometimes it looked stern, sometimes gentle, sometimes sorrowful, as if the stone itself carried memories of joy and loss, glory and ruin. They said the Sphinx wept when Egypt suffered and smiled when it prospered, its silent face reflecting the soul of the land. Even today, restorers work to protect it, filling cracks, strengthening its base, brushing away the endless sand. The Sphinx never resists the embrace of time, stands as both monument and reminder that even the greatest creations must yield to nature. Its survival, weathered but unbroken, speaks of resilience more powerful than perfection. As the night wind brushes across the desert, imagine the Sphinx under the stars, its face softened by centuries, its body half buried, half revealed. Endures not because it is untouched, but because it has accepted time's hand and still remains. And so, the erosion of time is not defeat. It is the story of endurance, the whisper that even as we change, we endure. The Sphinx, weathered but eternal, tells us that beauty is not in what is preserved perfectly, but in what survives gracefully. Secrets beneath the pause for centuries, the great Sphinx has stood silent. Its massive body stretched across the desert sands. But while its gaze looks outward, legends whisper that its greatest secrets lie beneath its paws. Beneath the stone, hidden in shadow and sand, many believe there are chambers filled with treasures, scrolls, and wisdom lost to the world. The Egyptians themselves told tales of secret halls beneath the Sphinx. Some said these chambers were built by the gods, holding the blueprints of creation, the very knowledge of how the heavens and the earth were formed. Others claimed they were libraries filled with golden scrolls, preserving the wisdom of the ancients for a time when humanity would be ready to learn again. To stand before the Sphinx was to stand on the threshold of mystery. Over the centuries, explorers, priests, and dreamers all wondered what lay below. Some believed it was the Hall of Records, a mythical library said to hold the secrets of Egypt, and even civilizations older still. According to legend, this hall contained maps of the stars, prophecies of the future, and stories of forgotten worlds. Could Atlantis itself, some whispered, be remembered in those hidden scrolls? There were also darker tales. Some claimed that curses guarded the chambers. Any who dared disturb the Sphinx's secrets would be struck down by illness or madness. The sands, they said, were not simply nature's doing, but the guardian's way of covering and protecting what must remain hidden. To dig beneath the paws without reverence was to invite the wrath of eternity. In modern times, archaeologists have searched with tools and science. They found small tunnels and hollows, but still, the great secrets remain untouched. Was it that? The chambers never existed? Or has the desert simply kept them safe for another age? The mystery deepens with every discovery, for the Sphinx, it seems, always keeps more than it reveals. For the people of Egypt, these whispers were not only about hidden rooms, but about something greater. They believed the true treasure beneath. The Sphinx was not gold or scrolls, but wisdom, the kind that lives in silence, waiting for those willing to listen. To bow at its paws was to bow before all that cannot be seen, but only felt as the stars shone above the desert. Villagers told stories of glowing doorways opening beneath the guardian, of light spilling out like dawn from the earth itself. Children imagined secret stairs leading down into endless halls of crystal and fire, where the answers to life's greatest riddles rested in silence. And so, the legend of the secrets beneath the Sphinx lives on. Whether chambers of gold, libraries of wisdom, or simply the mystery itself, the truth has never been fully uncovered. Perhaps that is the greatest secret of all, that wonder is meant to last, that some mysteries are eternal. The Sphinx and the sun, every morning in Egypt. Long before the city streets stir with life, the first rays of the sun rise above the horizon and fall gently upon the face of the great Sphinx. This was no accident. For the ancients, the Sphinx was not only a guardian of stone, but a companion of the sun itself, bound to Ra, the giver of light, life, and eternity. Facing east, the Sphinx gazes directly into the dawn. To the Egyptians, this was a sacred alignment, as the golden light of sunrise bathed its face. They believed the Sphinx was drinking in the energy of Ra, awakening with the new day. It was as though the Sphinx itself was part of the eternal cycle of night and morning, death and rebirth, silence and renewal. The lion's body of the Sphinx symbolized strength, courage, and kingship. Its human head, carved with the face of a pharaoh, symbolized wisdom and divine order. But when the sunlight touched it, the monument became more than strength or wisdom. It became a living bridge between earth and sky, man and God, life and eternity. Priests would rise early, chanting hymns as the sun's first glow lit the desert. Some believe the Sphinx carried those prayers upward, whispering them to Ra as he began his daily journey across the heavens. The moment of sunrise was seen as a promise that light would always return, that balance would be restored, that no matter how long the night, dawn would come again. Legends say that when the sun god Ra was weary from his travels, he rested in the Sphinx, merging his strength with the guardian of stone. In this way, the Sphinx was both watcher and vessel, a sacred form filled with divine energy. Some even believed that at sunrise, if one stood very still and closed their eyes, they could feel the Sphinx's power glowing like fire in their chest, a blessing of courage and renewal. The connection between the Sphinx and the sun was also a lesson. Just as the sun rose and set without fail, the Egyptians were reminded to live in harmony with cycles, to accept growth, loss, and rebirth as natural rhythms. The Sphinx, forever facing the dawn, was a reminder to keep faith in light, even when surrounded by darkness. As centuries passed, the desert winds wore its face, sand buried its body. Yet the sun continued to rise, striking the same ancient stone. And still, each morning, the Sphinx awakens with the day, glowing in soft gold before the heat of noon. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine that sunrise in the desert, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold, the Sphinx glowing softly, its gaze fixed on eternity. Let it remind you, as it reminded the ancients, that no night lasts forever, and with every dawn comes the promise of light. The riddle of the Sphinx among all the tales of the Sphinx. None is more famous than its riddle. Though carved in Egypt, the story traveled far, reaching the Greeks. Imagine the Sphinx not only as a guardian of tombs, but as a creature of cunning and mystery. In this form, the Sphinx was said to test all who passed with a question, and only those wise enough to answer could live. The riddle was simple, yet profound. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Travelers trembled before the Sphinx, for those who answered incorrectly were said to be swallowed by the desert itself. For days and nights, many struggled to solve its puzzle. The answer, however, was not about animals or gods, but about life itself. The answer was man. As a baby in the morning of life, he crawls on 4 legs. In the noon of life, he walks tall upon 2. And in the evening of old age, he walks with the help of a staff, a 3rd leg. In this way, the Sphinx's riddle was not a trap, but a lesson, reminding all who listened of the cycle of human existence. Though the story of the riddle is best known from Greece, Egyptians too embraced its wisdom. For them, the Sphinx was always a teacher, not through words, but through silence, symbols, and mystery. To stand before it was to be reminded that life is a journey with stages, each carrying its own strength and dignity. Childhood, adulthood, old age, all are sacred. All are part of the great design. Legends tell of travelers who, after hearing the riddle, carried its meaning in their hearts forever. Some became wiser rulers, kinder fathers, gentler mothers, and braver warriors. For to solve the riddle was not only to live, but to understand life's fleeting beauty. The Sphinx in its stillness held wisdom that no scroll or temple could match. Yet the riddle was also a warning. Those who sought only power or riches could not answer, for they did not look inward. The Sphinx reminded people that true wisdom is not found in wealth, but in reflection. The sand would swallow the arrogant, but it would spare the humble to this day. The riddle of the Sphinx endures, passed from storyteller to storyteller, whispered across cultures and centuries. It is more than a puzzle. It is a mirror held up to every listener. And so, as night deepens and the stars wheel above, imagine the Sphinx speaking its question in the silence of your dreams. Let its riddle remind you that life is a circle, that each stage is precious, and that wisdom is found not in fear, but in understanding. The pharaoh's dream long ago. When the Sphinx lay buried beneath drifting sands, there was a young prince named Thutmose. He was not yet a pharaoh, but a royal son, uncertain of his future. One hot afternoon, while hunting in the desert near Giza, he grew weary. The blazing sun pressed down upon him, and the silence of the desert wrapped around his heart like a blanket. Seeking rest, he lay down in the shadow of the Sphinx, half buried in golden dunes. As sleep overtook him, the prince began to dream. In his vision, the Sphinx was no longer silent. Its massive stone face glowed with light, its eyes alive with divine fire. Its voice, deep as thunder, yet gentle as the wind, spoke to him. "Prince Thutmose," it said, "behold me. I am the guardian of eternity, the Horus of the horizon. For ages I have stood here, half hidden, forgotten under the sands. Clear away the desert that covers me, and in return the gods shall grant you kingship. You will wear the crown of Egypt and rule with my blessing." The desert stretched quiet around him, the Sphinx still half buried and silent. But in his heart, he carried the voice of the dream, returned again and again, praying before the stone guardian. In time, he commanded the sands to be cleared, revealing the great body of the Sphinx once more. True to the vision's promise, Thutmose rose to the throne, becoming Pharaoh Thutmose IV. To honor the dream, he placed a great stone stele between the paws of the Sphinx. Known today as the Dream Stele, it still stands, inscribed with the tale of his vision for the Egyptians. This was not just a story of kingship, but of devotion. It showed that even rulers were guided not by ambition alone, but by the whispers of the gods and the will of timeless guardians. The dream of Thutmose became a legend passed down through generations. It reminded the people that the Sphinx was not only a monument, but a living presence, capable of choosing kings and shaping destiny. It also taught that honor lay in service, that even the mighty must kneel before mystery, clearing away the sands of neglect to preserve what is sacred. As night deepened in villages across Egypt, parents told their children this tale, their voices soft under the glow of oil lamps. The little ones drifted to sleep, imagining the young prince resting beneath the Sphinx. The desert winds whispering through the dunes, the stone guardian bending close to speak a prophecy. And so, the story of the pharaoh's dream still lives. It tells us that greatness is not found in strength alone, but in listening to silence, to dreams, to the timeless voices that speak when the world grows quiet. The guardian of the desert sands in the vast silence of the Egyptian desert, where golden sands stretch endlessly beneath a blazing sun. There lies a figure older than empires, grander than kings, carved from living stone, its face calm and eternal. The great Sphinx of Giza has watched over the land for thousands of years. It is neither man nor beast, but both a lion's body for strength, a human head for wisdom. To gaze upon it is to feel the weight of centuries pressing gently. A reminder that time itself bows before this guardian of stone. The Sphinx sits near the pyramids, as if keeping watch over the tombs of mighty pharaohs. Its eyes, once painted bright, are now worn by centuries of wind and sand, yet they still seem to gaze beyond the horizon into eternity. For travelers of old, the first sight of the Sphinx was breathtaking, a silent figure half buried in the dunes, as though the desert itself had given birth to a god. To them, it was not simply a statue, but a living presence, sentinel guarding the mysteries of life and death. Legends whispered that the Sphinx was more than stone. Some said it was the voice of the gods, testing mortals with riddles to measure their wisdom. Others believed it was the embodiment of Ra, the sun god, forever greeting the dawn with patience. Still more thought it was Horus, falcon-headed guardian of kings, watching over Egypt's rulers even in death. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: no one passed beneath its gaze without feeling small. Humbled by its silent majesty, the desert winds have shifted dunes around its paws, burying and uncovering it countless times. Pharaohs of old ordered it cleared of sand only for the desert to reclaim it again. Yet the Sphinx endures, patient as the Nile's flow, untouched by the rise and fall of dynasties. Armies have marched past, kingdoms have crumbled, and still it remains a guardian that belongs not to one age, but to all. For the people of Egypt, the Sphinx was not just a monument, it was a protector. It told children stories of its watchful gaze, of how it guarded the land from enemies and spirits alike. To stand before it was to stand at the doorway to eternity, where silence spoke louder than words. Even today, when visitors sit quietly at its feet, they feel the same stillness, as though the Sphinx whispers without sound, reminding us of mysteries too great for speech. As the sun sinks beyond the pyramids and the desert sky turns to velvet blue, the Sphinx does not move, yet its presence fills the night. Stars wheel above, the sands grow cold, and the ancient guardian continues its silent vigil. For thousands of years it has watched, and for thousands more it will remain. And so, as you close your eyes, imagine the Sphinx beneath the stars, still, eternal, unblinking. Let its silence guide you into rest, a guardian of dreams, watching over you just as it has watched over the desert since time began. The origins of the Sphinx. Long before pyramids rose above the desert sands, long before kings carved their names into stone, the great Sphinx was already there, or so the legends say. Its true beginnings are lost in time, hidden beneath layers of history, myth, and sand. To this day, no one knows exactly who built the Sphinx or why. But countless stories try to explain its mysterious birth. Some believe the Sphinx was created during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, more than 4,000 years ago. Carved from a single massive block of limestone, it was said to represent the pharaoh himself, merging his face with the power of a lion. In this way, Khafre declared to all who looked upon it that he was both man and god, mortal yet divine, protector of Egypt for eternity. To carve such a monument was no ordinary feat. It took thousands of workers, chiseling day and night. Guided by priests who prayed to the gods for strength, others whisper that the Sphinx is far older, long before the pyramids, perhaps even before Egypt itself. They say it was crafted by a forgotten people, its face once belonging not to a pharaoh, but to a god. These tales speak of a time when the Sphinx stood not as a tomb guardian, but as a symbol of cosmic wisdom, gazing forever eastward at the rising sun. In myth, the Sphinx was often linked to the sun god Ra. As dawn broke over the desert, the first rays of sunlight struck its face, as though the statue itself were greeting the new day. To the Egyptians, this was no accident. They believed the Sphinx channeled the power of the sun, standing as a bridge between the human world and the divine. Its lion's body symbolized strength, while its human face showed intelligence, combining the best of both. Other stories tied the Sphinx to Horus, the falcon god of kingship and protection. In this telling, the Sphinx was the Horus of the horizon, a guardian watching over both the living and the dead. With its immense size and piercing gaze, it was said to ward off chaos, ensuring that order and balance remained in the land. Even the desert itself seemed to respect the Sphinx. Though sandstorms buried it again and again, the stone guardian always re-emerged, as if the earth could never keep it hidden for long. Each time it was uncovered, Egyptians believed it was reborn, a reminder that truth and wisdom cannot be silenced. The true origins of the Sphinx remain a mystery. Was it the vision of a mighty king, a gift from the gods, or a relic of an age long forgotten? Perhaps it is all of these at once. What is certain is that the Sphinx has stood longer than memory. Its face weathered, yet proud, its silence deeper than words. And so as you close your eyes tonight, imagine the dawn breaking over the desert, the Sphinx glowing gold in the morning light. Let it remind you that even in mystery there is beauty, and in silence there is truth.